So my first initial thoughts of this Mexico March window, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty impressive window considering the opposing teams that they went against. I really like this window for Mexico. I think if you're a Mexican fan, you have to be pretty excited of what you've seen so far, especially with all of the injuries that have plagued this team over the past couple months, and to be able to do this with not really a full strength lineup. It's a pretty good window, and I think you got to be pretty excited leading into this next tournament. With all that being said, we're going to lead into the first game. So the first game was against Portugal. This game ended up into a 0-0 draw, which, if you're asking me, if you're Mexico, getting a draw or getting any sort of result out of this is quite a plus in my opinion, because Portugal to me is a much better team, especially attacking wise, and especially since Mexico's missing a lot of players right now. The game pretty much went back and forth, but I thought Portugal was pretty much the better team. It felt like Mexico a lot of the times were just kind of missing that final pass or shot. Like they were doing really well, especially putting the pressure on Portugal and being really competitive with it. But the moment they kind of got into the box, it felt like they just couldn't find that open guy. And it felt like on the other end of it, Portugal was able to. But Portugal missed a couple of open shots, with one of them hitting the woodwork, which they left the man just wide open right behind. I believe it was Cesar Montes at the time. So, like, kind of those moments where I felt like Mexico was missing a lot of, they just couldn't connect. One thing I thought Mexico did really well, though, was in defensive transition. Yes, there was a couple moments, a couple hiccups that they had against Portugal, but Portugal is also a very elite attack and is a contender for the World Cup. I mean, I don't think they're necessarily going to win it, but they're definitely top five without a doubt. And the fact that they were able to shut down a lot of the transition play that Portugal would try to counter on the Mexico's possession, they looked really, really good. Something that I couldn't necessarily say, and one of my complaints that I saw with the USA team was that they were getting killed in transition versus this Mexico team. I thought handled that really, really well, and they were able to set themselves up positionally to kind of stop things from going too far. Like I said, they did get caught a couple times, but for the most part, from what I saw from this Mexico team, I thought they did a really good job of shutting that stuff down. The biggest thing that I think killed this Mexican defense in this game was the center backs kind of mismarking some of their men on certain plays. Like I said, there's the one where the man, I can't think of the player. I think it was Gonzalo Ramos who hit off the woodwork on a one touch shot, but outside of that, I think there was a couple of times on the set pieces where it felt like guys were just kind of like left open. So it's really where Mexico was getting killed on, was those set pieces. It felt like there was always just one guy that was left floating on the Portuguese side. Overall, though, I mean, they held Portugal to nothing. They couldn't really get nothing on the attacking side to really put a goal in the back of the net. But overall, I thought this was a good defensive effort from Mexico, and especially the way that they played in the midfield. Now we're going to go to the Belgium game. So the first half of this game, Mexico looked really good. They looked by far like the better team. That obviously this was not the best Belgium that they had to offer, but Mexico took advantage of it, which is what you want to see. You want to see uh, a team like Mexico who is trying to prove themselves against a Belgium team who may not have their full strength lineup. You wanna take advantage of that. You wanna show that, like, "Hey, you wanna bring the best against us," and they did, and I thought they looked really fluid and creative in the attack, and, like, there was a lot of moments and a lot of nice 1-2s that we had, especially with a guy like Julio Quiñones and Brian Rodriguez, or Gutierrez, my bad. I thought looked just really, really good together, and then you would have liked to see, Raul Jimenez get a little bit more action, but it felt like he was just not kind of connecting super well, but what we saw on the left side of this Mexico attack looked really, really good. And then also on the defensive side, once again, they looked really good, and they shut down Belgium from doing anything in the transition or setting up, like, just catching them on the counter. Like, they held it really, really well, and quite honestly, Belgium only had 1 shot on goal that first half, which to me, if you're Mexico, you gotta be really, really impressed with what you've seen there in your midfield, as well as on your right and left backs, being able to shut that stuff down, because really what Belgium has, and Kevin De Bruyne is not really that guy anymore. They don't really have a guy in the striker position, outside of Lukaku, which who knows if he's going back, but he wasn't in this window. So, like, if you can stop them on the wings with a Luka Bacchio, I can never say his name, Luka Bacchio, and Edoku, if you can shut those guys down on the wing, Belgium has a hard time scoring. And it felt like they went in there with Vasco Aguirre came in there with a game plan, and he was able to shut it down. And that first half looked really, really good. Now, if we go to the second half, and look, man, Luka Bacchio, that guy's just had one hell of a March window. I believe he had 3 goals, and all of them were bangers, and this one especially. It was basically a complete repeat from the USA game, where he cuts inside, hits him on the left corner, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And he just, like, That guy, it was just you can't stop that shot. You can't stop it. It was just an amazing play. Belgium seemed to come a little bit more alive after that, and it came a little bit more of a back and forth game. It felt like Mexico kind of ran out of gas a little bit. They did, because that first half they were pretty much just pressing the entire time, pressing, pushing Belgium, making them try to play at the back and try to kind of move forward, but they couldn't. In this game, it felt in this second half, it felt like they just didn't have that pace to keep up with anymore, and they were able to kind of push up a little bit higher and kind of play this game a little bit more 50-50, because you didn't really see too much creation that you were seeing in that first half. It felt like a lot of guys got tired out, or the adjustments that Belgium made really kind of took advantage, because there was a lot of substitutes that did happen. Yeah, overall though, I mean, it ended 1-1. I thought this was a good game for Mexico. You would have liked to see the result there, especially with the way that they were playing in that first half. It felt like he kind of let this game get away from you if you're a Mexican side. But overall, like I said, it was a good game. Now, as for my key takeaways out of these two games, I thought Quinones and Brian Gutierrez look really, really good together. Brian Gutierrez, obviously, is a guy following, he's in MLS as well as Liga MX, and he's a younger player. And he looks like he's really earned himself a spot on this Mexican national team. Maybe not as a starter, but he's definitely going to be a real good depth piece for this team. I thought just the way he was able to 1-2 with Quinones and really create in the midfield was something I haven't necessarily seen from Mexico in a long while, because Mexico, quite honestly, hasn't had that guy in the attacking midfielding position to really help kind of pull the strings and open up the field a little bit more like he was able to. My third takeaway is I think Mexico's proved that they can go band for band with most teams. To obviously, like, look, Portugal wasn't necessarily super full strength. Obviously, whatever you want to say about the Ronaldo thing or whatever, they don't really have a clear cut striker. I mean, you have Gonzalo Ramos, but honestly, I don't even know how that guy is even on PSG right now. But overall, I mean, to me, this window kind of proved like, okay, Mexico can still kind of keep up with some of these guys, and they can kind of be very competitive when they want to be. And Mexico always tends to kind of be like that, where maybe they'll struggle against the US, but when it comes to like World Cup level teams, they're never get run down on. They never get like run over on. They're able to compete, and they're able to maintain that pressure and really make the games competitive and close. Which is really impressive, considering that a lot of people are thinking this is one of the worst generations in Mexican history, which, as long as I can remember, this is one of the least strongest ones I've seen in a long while. But even with that being said, they're still a good team, and at times they can look really dangerous against some of these like top European level oppositions. My next takeaway is that if you're Mexico, you got to be feeling really, really good about your depth right now. Like I said, I believe there's somewhere around like 7 or 8 Mexican players that are on the injured list that weren't called up into this window, and you still look good against some really good teams that are going to be knockout level teams in the World Cup, in a Belgium and a Portugal. And for them to like be able to do what they did, and then at times even look better and have the better half with this beaten down team, that is like, you got to be feeling really, really good about this Mexican depth, because this is something that I haven't necessarily felt about Mexico's depth in a long time, is having people that can come in and be reliable. So it's kind of good to see that coming into this last March window. It seems like a lot of guys are really vibing with Aguirre and his game plan. Then my final takeaway is that if once Mexico gets healthy, and hopefully you can get a lot of these guys back in July, that they can be a really difficult team to play against, and they're going to make their group pretty interesting. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to look like. I think there's a good chance that they make it out of the knockout rounds. Like I said, they have a very competitive group with South Africa, South Korea, as well as the European playoff winner, which I'm drawing a blank at the moment who made it. So yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that they can win this group and make it out to the next round. So I'm really excited to see what Mexico has cooking up as we lead into like this June window right before the World Cup. I don't know how much you're going to see of the first team. You're probably going to get a lot of guys probably resting. I don't know. I feel like if you're Mexico, you probably feel pretty good. There's not too much to learn from what you have, but we'll see what they have in the next following months. But overall, like I said, man, I thought there was a pretty good window for Mexico. I thought you have to come out of here thinking that Mexico is still the best team in CONCACAF. Granted, um, they have taken some L's recently from the United States, but I mean, being Gold Cup winners as well as Nations League winners recently, they so far they've just looked to be the most informed team. They seem to be the most balanced team, and clearly they just have the most depth in CONCACAF. And as much as it pains me to say it as a Costa Rican fan, Mexico seems to be on top once again. So Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you're a Mexican fan, what do you think of this window? Were you impressed with it? Would you have liked to see a win? Um, do you feel good about it? Like, just give me your overall thoughts. I'm curious from your perspective as somebody who follows Mexico very deeply. Let me know in the comments down below. These are me coming as a neutral of my thoughts of this team. And yeah, if you guys like the content just like this and you want to see more CONCACAF as well as World Cup content, please be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.